kids. Today we're going to read some more of this book called Ramona the Pest. You might have remembered that Ramona is starting kindergarten, and her first day of school didn't quite go as she had planned. Now we're going to read about her next day of school, where she gets to do her first show and tell. Remember, each page in this book does not have a picture, so if there is a picture, I'll show it to you. And if there isn't a picture, see if you can make your own picture in your mind. Chapter 2, Show and Tell. Ramona looked forward to many things. Her first loose tooth, riding a bicycle instead of a tricycle, wearing lipstick just like her mother. But most of all, she looked forward to show and tell. For years, Ramona had watched her sister Beezus leave for school with a doll, a book, or a pretty leaf to share with her class. She had watched Beezus' friend Henry Huggins carry mysterious lumpy packages past her house on his way to school. She had listened to Beezus talk about the interesting things her class brought to school. Turtles, ballpoint pens that wrote in 3 different colors, a live clam in a jar of sand and seawater. Now at last the time had come for Ramona to show and tell. "What are you going to take to show for your class?" she asked Beezus, hoping for an idea for herself. "Nothing," said Beezus, and went on to explain. "Along about the 3rd grade, you begin to outgrow show and tell. By the 5th grade, it's all right to take something really unusual, like someone's pickled appendix or something to do with social studies. An old piece of fur when you study fur traders would be all right. Or if something really exciting happened, like your house burned down, it would be okay to tell about that. But in 5th grade, you don't take an old doll or an old toy fire engine to school, and you don't call it show and tell by then. You just let the teacher know you have something interesting." Ramona was not discouraged. She was used to Beezus' growing out of things as she grew into them. She rummaged around in her toy box and finally dragged out her favorite doll, the doll with the hair that could really be washed. "I'm going to take Chevrolet," she told Beezus. "Nobody names a doll Chevrolet," said Beezus, whose dolls had names like Sandra or Patty. "I do," Ramona answered. "I think Chevrolet is the most beautiful name in the world." "Well, she's a horrid-looking doll," said Beezus. "Her hair is green. Besides, you don't even play with her." "I wash her hair," said Ramona loyally. "And the only reason what's left of her hair looks sort of green is that I tried to blue it like Howie's grandmother, who has her hair blued at the beauty shop. Mama said putting bluing on yellow hair turned it green. Anyway, I think it's pretty." And when the time finally came to start to school, Ramona was disappointed once more to see Mrs. Kemp approaching with Howie and little Willa Jean. "Mama, come on," begged Ramona, dragging her mother's hand. But her mother waited until the Kemps had caught up. Willa Jean was even sloppier than usual. This morning there were crumbs on the front of her sweater, and she was drinking apple juice out of a nursing bottle. Willa Jean dropped her bottle when she saw Chevrolet and sat there with apple juice dribbling down her chin while she stared at Ramona's doll. "Ramona is taking her doll to school for show and tell," said Mrs. Quimby. Howie looked worried. "I don't have anything for show and tell," he said. "That's all right, Howie," said Mrs. Quimby. "Miss Binny doesn't expect you to take something every day." "I want to take something," said Howie. "Oh my goodness, Howie," said his mother. "What if 29 children each brought something? Miss Binny wouldn't have time to teach you anything." "She's taking something," Howie pointed to Ramona. There was something familiar about the way Howie was behaving. Ramona pulled at her mother's hand. "Come on, Mama." "Ramona, I think it would be nice if you ran into the house and found something to lend to Howie to take to school," said Mrs. Quimby. Ramona did not think this idea was nice at all. She recognized that lending Howie something might be faster than arguing with him, so she ran into the house where she snatched up the first thing she saw, a stuffed rabbit that had already been given hardware before the cat had adopted it as a sort of practice gopher. The cat liked to chew the rabbit's tail, carry it around in its mouth, or lie down and kick it with its hind feet. When Ramona thrust the rabbit into Howie's hand, Mrs. Kemp said, "Say thank you, Howie." "It's just a beat-up old bunny," said Howie scornfully. When his mother wasn't looking, he handed the rabbit to Willa Jean, who dropped her apple juice, seized the rabbit, and began to chew on its tail. "Just like our cat," thought Ramona, as the group proceeded toward school. "Don't forget Ramona's bunny," said Mrs. Kemp when they reached the kindergarten playground. "I don't want her old bunny," said Howie. "Now, Howie," said his mother, "Ramona was kind enough to share her bunny, so you be nice." To Mrs. Quimby she said, as if Howie could not hear, Howie needs to learn some manners. Share. Ramona had learned how to share in preschool, where she either had to share something of her own that she did not want to share, or she had to share something that belonged to someone else that she did not want to share either. That's all right, Howie, she said. You don't have to share my rabbit. Howie looked grateful, but his mother thrust the rabbit into his hands anyway. At the beginning, on the second day of kindergarten, Ramona felt shy because she was not sure what Miss Bunny would think about a girl. Let's get a picture here for you. She was not sure what Miss Binny thought about a girl who had been made to sit on a bench. But Miss Binny smiled and she said, "Good morning, Ramona." And she seemed to have forgotten all about the day before. Ramona sat Chevrolet in her little cupboard with the duck on the door and waited for show and tell. "Did anyone bring something they'd like to show for the class?" asked Miss Binny after the class had sung the Donzer song. Ramona remembered to raise her hand, and Miss Binny invited her to come to the front of the room to show the class what she had brought. Ramona took Chevrolet from her cupboard and stood beside Miss Binny's desk, where she discovered she did not know what to say. She looked to Miss Binny for help. Miss Binny smiled encouragingly. "Is there something you would like to tell us about your doll?" "I can really wash her hair," said Ramona. "It's sort of green because I gave her a blue rinse." "And what did you wash her hair with?" asked Miss Binny. "Oh, lots of things," said Ramona, beginning to enjoy speaking in front of the class. "Soap, shampoo, detergent, bubble bath. I tried Dutch cleanser once, but it didn't work." "And what is your doll's name?" said Miss Binny. "Chevrolet," answered Ramona. "I named her after my aunt's car." The class began to laugh, especially the boys. Ramona felt confused, standing there in front of 28 boys and girls who were laughing at her. "Well, I did," she said angrily, almost tearfully. "Chevrolet was a beautiful name, and there was no reason to laugh." Miss Binny ignored the giggles and snickers. "I think Chevrolet is a lovely name," she said. And then she repeated, "Chevrolet." The way Miss Binny pronounced the word, it made it sound like music. "Say it, class." "Chevrolet," the class said obediently, and this time no one laughed. Ramona's heart was filled with love for her teacher. Miss Binny was not like most grown-ups. Miss Binny understood. The teacher smiled at Ramona. "Thank you, Ramona, for sharing Chevrolet with us." After a girl had showed her doll that talked when she pulled the cord in its back, and a boy had told the class about his family's new refrigerator, Miss Binny asked, "Does anyone else have anything to show us or tell us about?" "The boy brought something," said Susan of the springy curls, pointing at Howie. Boing, thought Ramona, as she always did when those curls caught her attention. She was beginning to see that Susan was a girl who liked to be in charge. "Howie, did you bring something?" asked Miss Binny. Howie looked embarrassed. "Come on, Howie," encouraged Miss Binny. "Show us what you brought." Reluctantly, Howie went to his cupboard and brought out a shabby blue rabbit with a damp tail. He carried it to Miss Binny's desk, faced the class, and said in a flat voice, "Just an old bunny." The class showed very little interest. "Is there something you'd like to tell us about your bunny?" asked Miss Binny. "No," said Howie. "I just brought it because my mother made me." "I can tell you something about your bunny," said Miss Binny. "It has lots of love. That's why it is so worn." Ramona was fascinated. In her imagination, she could see the cat lying on the carpet with the rabbit gripped in his teeth while he battered it with his hind feet. The look that Howie gave the rabbit was somehow lacking in love. Ramona waited for him to say that it wasn't his rabbit, but he did not. He just stood there. Miss Binny, seeing that Howie could not be encouraged to speak in front of the class, opened a drawer in her desk, and as she reached inside, she said, "I have a present for your bunny." She pulled out the red ribbon. She took the rabbit from Howie, and she tied that ribbon around its neck in a bright bow. "There you are, Howie," she said, "a nice new bow for your bunny." Howie mumbled, "Thank you," as quickly as possible and hid that rabbit in his cupboard. Ramona was delighted. She felt that red ribbon that Miss Binny had given her old rabbit took the place of the present she had not been given the day before. All morning she thought about the things she could do with that red ribbon. She could use it to tie up what was left of Chevrolet's hair. She could trade it to Beezus for something valuable, an empty perfume bottle or some colored paper that wasn't scribbled on. And during the rest time, Ramona had the best idea of all. She could save that ribbon until she got a two-wheeled bicycle, and then she would weave it in and out of the spokes, and she would ride so fast that the ribbon would be a red blur as the wheels went around. Yes, that was exactly what she was going to do with her red ribbon. We're going to stop there for today. I hope you enjoyed that part of Ramona the Pest. Seems like she's having a really good second day of school, doesn't it? Her show and tell went well, and now she's getting the present she wanted from the day before. I wonder what will happen next. What do you think will happen next? Any ideas? Next time we'll finish that chapter. So we still have a little more in that chapter to read before we start on the next one. So let me just give you a picture of the next part. So maybe you can start to guess what might happen. It looks like it's Ramona and Howie and the red ribbon. What do you think is going to happen? We'll read again soon. Bye!